All right, so this is our first Photoshop for iPad lesson. Again, assuming that nobody's worked with Photoshop before, there's a lot of helpful videos, and even the videos that come with the app teach it to you as if you already know Photoshop. So there are those that don't. So to my students, remember how you get everything through Google Classroom. So if you go to your Classroom folder, you will have the file that you'll need for this lesson, and it's called Start Selections PSD. I'm in my little Classroom folder here. If you click on the three little dots at the bottom, okay, we can say open in, wait for it to do its thing, and we're going to tell it to open into or save to your files that are on your iPad, right? So I'm going to hit Save to Files, click on my iPad, and sometimes, depending on what kind of a file it is, it might pop up like it did here and shows that there's a Photoshop folder because it understands that there's a Photoshop app, and since this is a Photoshop PSD document, it kind of popped that folder open. So I'm going to click that folder and say I want to save that Photoshop document there. So now, to get it into our Photoshop app, I'm going to go to my files, okay, where I just put it. And it is here on my iPad, just to kind of show you. If you go back to on my iPad, there's the Photoshop folder that popped up, and it says it has one item in it, and that is the Start Selections. Now, if I tap on this guy, ta-da, it starts to open up inside of Photoshop for iPad. So we'll give it a moment here. Get it to open up. Or 2 or 3 moments. It's slowly doing its thing. Oh, I decided not to do it. There we go. Okay, so when you look at this view, I've got things at the bottom like import and open. You can sometimes grab things from your Google Classroom folder that way. If you want to start some brand new project with a blank slate, you've got that. You do have, we're in the title of your work, so this is all of the recent stuff that I've played with here. So I'm going to click on the start one here that I just plopped in there. All right, so here's our view. We have A, B, C, D, and E little letters in this big sort of multi-shadow box frame. And down below are all the objects that we're going to be putting in those spaces, right? Well, one of the first things that people kind of want to learn and know how to do is how do you cut something out so you can move it or paste it somewhere else? Well, there are different tools, and at the top here we have the Move tool is highlighted. Down below that we have what's called the Transform tool, which you can see it allows us to pull on different anchors and stretch things. I can hit cancel there, and right below that is a little object that looks like a lasso, right? These are called the selection tools, and notice how there's a little triangle in the bottom corner, and we know from other Adobe products that that little icon means that there's more stuff underneath. So when I tap it a second time, it looks like this, and I start to see from left to right various opportunities for kind of outlining stuff. This first one is called the lasso. He's kind of good for irregular shaped objects that you would want to draw the outer edge of to kind of select them. The next one over is with the little arrow inside the box is sort of a masking tool. We'll get into him a little bit later. The one with the paintbrush inside of the swivel or the oval there, it is what we call the quick selection tool. So it quickly finds similar pixels that are all the same, and it selects anything. So if there's something that is all unified in a similar one color, that's the good one there. The next one from there to the right is a square marquee, so anything that is square-ish or rectangular shape is easy to highlight that way. And then you have the ellipse selection, which obviously grabs ovals and perfect circles and those kinds of things. So we're going to be working with those kind of deals. So we're going to be pulling out these 6 objects and put them in different places using some different methods and some similar methods, so you kind of get used to repetition. The first thing that we're going to grab though is this sand dollar down here and with the red background. He is letter A. Okay, so I normally try to pinch zoom, come in closer on the object. Again, easier to see what I'm capturing, just like we did in Illustrator, easier to draw when you're up close. Since this is all pretty much the same color, there's not much variation in the pixel colors, I'm going to tap on the lasso tool and choose that middle one, the quick selection tool. Okay, up pops a little bar, and this little thing that says 30 here tells us basically that we're looking at around 30 different values of this shade of color. So there's some that are going to be darker, some that are going to be lighter. This guy here allows us to kind of choose how hard or how soft of a brush we want to use, and I'm just going to leave it where it's at, up at the top. All right, and I'm going to tap on and kind of mosey around. Ooh, that happened fast, didn't it? Whoosh. With a little tap and then sort of a move of my finger or the Apple pencil, whatever you might have, all of a sudden it found all of those similar pixels in sort of a 30 pixel kind of range of values. The super light ones, the medium value ones, and some medium dark ones that you might see varied in there. And it chose all of them all the way to the edge, and it saw that there was a difference between the red pixels and those light pixels. Awesome. So the quick selection is exactly what it's kind of called. If you have things that are very similar in value and color, it is a great fast way to select something. Okay, now that we have them selected, I'm going to pinch out, and I'm going to come up here to the move tool, okay, because we need to move this guy up into position where the letter A is, right? Now I'm going to grab him just by putting my finger or your pen tool on there, your pencil tool on there, and let go. Now looky there, it left a big hole at the bottom, didn't it? So basically what we're doing in that kind of an idea, if I make a selection here on this same piece of paper, on this same layer, because we can see over to the right here, there's a layers panel. It might be showing in different ways. It might be showing this view, or it might be showing this view. This is sort of an abbreviated or an abridged version of your layers, and the one right below it shows 3 lines, which means it shows more detail and it will show more information in your layers panel, kind of what you're used to seeing on a computer. All right, so right now we need to then deselect, and because we're done with this shape, we got it in place, we need these little, what we call them, marching ants. See how those little lines seem to be kind of going around? They're marching. So we need that selection of marching ants to go away. At the bottom of the screen, there is a window open, okay, another panel. It says deselect. Click on that. And all of a sudden, we're back to normal again, all right? You cannot do any other real function to that object sometimes unless you have deselected it. Unless you're going to change its color or something else, but it won't let you do many other things until you kind of deselect and you're ready to move on. Okay, so now, number 2, or letter B. We're going to go with the oval plate. Notice how there's an oval there at the top where B is, and here is the oval object, which is the plate, okay? Now, there's too many different color variations going on here, so I'm going to work with the ellipse tool. Okay, the ellipse tool was that last one in our list, so I tap this twice and I get myself all the way down to the elliptical tool. Okay, and when it comes to the ellipse, you kind of want to start by drawing or dragging from the top left. I'm going to drag up here from top left. See, I'm off the plate area a little bit. I want to get this a little bit wider, and looky there, that's not too bad. Now it is a little long, okay, but I'm going to let go for right now. Okay, now what I will probably need to do at this point is do what's called transform this. I need to obviously make this fit, right? It is not going to be a perfect fit. So I need to come up here to my transform object. Looky there. Now we have those wonderful bounding boxes, and our ants are still marching around to and fro. But this way I can kind of grab this guy. Oops, I didn't mean to do that. Oh, it's not going to let me do it. Oh, I'm in the wrong transform. Forgive me, guys. Let me cancel this guy. Come back over here. I want this transform. There we go. I need the one at the bottom. Ha ha ha. There we go. It's good to know which transform to go with. We need the transform at the bottom. My apologies, because I'm still in the selection. I got carried away. I'm going to try and bring that one in a little bit from the top. Okay. Let's see if I can bring this up a little bit from the bottom, because this guy is going to show. There we go. I can pull him over this way a little bit. There we go. So I use the transform at the very bottom. I'm going to click up here in the top right corner now that I have my oval fitting, and I'm going to click done. All right. Now I'm going to pinch zoom out, right, or unzoom. And I'm back to my move tool again. Move tool, because I want to move this guy now that I have got him the size that I need him to be. Bloop. And I hit deselect. Okay, so 2 objects done. One by quick selection tool, because it's very similar in color. The second one by using the oval or the elliptical tool. Okay, and once we had that, then we used the transform tool that was near the bottom of the screen to help adjust the selection. Okay, not the transform tool in the left-hand column. All right. Now let's go on to something that actually looks a little bit more complicated, the coral. All right, so I'm pinching and zooming. I'm getting a little closer with this guy. All right, so now to get this, here's the idea. We want the coral. We don't want the background white. And look how bumpy this silly thing is. Okay, so we can't really use anything that's overly geometric, because it's definitely not a rectangle. It's not a circle. It is something very free-formed. But something that we can do is we can quickly mask out the white background. Since the white background is pretty similar in color, here's one way that we can do this. I'm going to our selection tools, going to tap twice. The second box in, or the second space in, right after the lasso, not the lasso, but the second one, this one with the square and the little arrow into it, is a masking field. Okay, and what I want to do is now I want to click down here. I want to click at the bottom here, and I want to make sure that the word rectangle is chosen. I want to make sure that enhance edge is selected, because we want it to enhance up against all these rough pixels along the edges of this piece of coral. And we want to subtract the object, meaning we want to highlight the object, not the background white space. That being done, I'm going to drag a marquee around here. Again, I want to make sure I'm doing this and this, enhance the edge. Okay, and look how it did that. Okay, it got a lot. It got almost everything. That's cool. All right, we only have to get a little bit more space down deep in those 2 little canals. Okay, now to do that, we know that we could choose the quick selection tool. Why? Because the area we're trying to grab is all white. There's no difference. Okay, it's a solid white. So I'm going to go back to this guy. Okay, my quick selection, and I'm going to drag my finger in just a little bit more into this space here. Whoops. I'm going to drag in, and look what it's doing. It's grabbing the white. Oh no, but I want to select the white. It's subtracting it. So I want to do the opposite. I don't want to choose the white. I want to get rid of the white. So there's a circle here at the very bottom left of your screen. Just a transparent circle sitting there all by itself. If you put your finger on it, it becomes a subtraction. Look at that little thing that popped up in the right-hand corner. It says subtract from your selection. And since what we want is just the coral, we want to subtract the white. This is basically your big button for Alt or Option. Whether you're on a computer keyboard that's Windows or Mac, it would be your Alt or Option key, this little circle. So my finger is on it, and I'm going to come in here and get rid of what I can as far as the white, okay? As much of it as I can. I'm going to come in along here, and I'm going to get rid of some of it there. Cool? Now, it's okay if for some reason, I'm going to let go. If for some reason you chose too much, and you got too much of the coral accidentally, just let your finger up and you push out and you get rid of some of that selection so you don't take off the coral. So now the coral is all completed, okay? It has been selected. Woohoo! We masked out what we didn't want, all right? And we kept what we wanted because it was a unique odd shape. So now we're back to the move tool, all right? Gonna move this guy up into position. All right, and then down below, hit deselect. All right, now we're on to the flat shell, this guy here. Okay, this guy is sort of a unique shape. He's long, he's not rectangular. So on this one, I'm going to show you how to actually work with the lasso tool. Okay, tap here, tap again, lasso, first option. With the lasso tool, you have to draw in one complete line continuously without lifting up your finger or your Apple Pencil. Okay, so wherever you start drawing, you have to keep going, all the way around, okay, until you get all the way back to the beginning, and then you see some marching ants. Okay, now what if you screw up? Well, do just what I did there, hit deselect, and then you can start over again. Okay, so if you fumble, or if you lift your finger up, or your Apple Pencil up, or your wrist moves, or you get a big wobble somewhere, I lost a little bit of that there, but that's not too horrible. Okay, now we got our marching guys. Okay, first, so from this point, I want to try something different with you. Okay, we're going to cut this shape out, and we're going to paste it on a new layer. Okay, so I'm going to come over here to the far right. Okay, see this activity box over here in the far right? There's a plus sign, there's an eyeball, there's a little masking thing, there's an arrow pointing down, a lightning bolt, and then there's 3 little dots. I'm going to click those 3 little dots, and look, these are all kinds of things that we can do with things involving layers. It's called layer actions. I'm going to come down where it says cut. There's a pair of scissors right there. I'm going to click cut. It disappeared. Oh my God, that's okay. I'm going to come back to those 3 little dots, and I'm going to click paste. Ta-da! Did you see what just happened? That shell hopped onto its own layer. That's crazy. Okay, where'd he go? He's right there. Okay, whenever you create something and paste it on a new layer, check this out. It lands in the middle of the entire document. So every time you go and paste something, by default, it tends to land in the middle. All right, so we can, what? Move it, right. Okay, so what we need to do, though, is we need to transform this little guy, because you can see how he needs to be vertical instead of horizontal. So this is where I just hit the transform control on the left-hand toolbox. Not from the bottom, because there wasn't an option down at the bottom, from the left-hand side. And it gave me that bounding box, and it gave me that little handle that I can spin. Yay. Okay. And then I hit done in the top right. Done. And now I can use my little move tool, and I can move him into place. Okay. Now, since he is on his own layer, and he's not involved in layer 0, when I move him, he doesn't make a hole anymore. Okay, he made a hole from the first one when we cut him out, but when we put him on his own layer, he's free to do all kinds of stuff. All right, and then we can even, if you see the little eyeballs in the layer panel, I can click the eyeball and I can turn him off and I can turn him on, just like we've done in Illustrator. All right, now we have the Nautical Shell. This Nautical Shell here, we're going to do him in a similar fashion as we did one of our first ones. These have a lot of similar orange and red, pink kind of colors going on. I'm going to probably take him in, and because the background is green, it's definitely different than the color of the shell, kind of almost complementary in some crazy way. I'm going to use the quick selection tool. I'm going to come over here with the quick selection since we're looking for things in difference in colors. All right. So I'm going to come along here, see how well I can get with the quick selection tool. Okay, it's clicking some stuff here. Oh, you know what happened? I'm not even on that layer. Dun da da da. Okay, so to select something from here, because we just posted something on its own layer, I have to go back to the picture layer because it's not grabbing any pixels because we weren't on the original photo. All right. Round 2. Now, when we, this is better. So now I'm grabbing pixels. Okay, you'll find that happens a lot when you get excited. You're ready to keep moving. Oh, I want to grab this. I want to grab that. You have to remember, again, what layer you're on. And it's a simple layer issue. Just look over to the right, see which layer you're on, hop back to the right layer. Okay, this got a lot of what I needed, but then a lot of what I didn't need. So back to putting my finger on the Alt circle, or Option circle. I want to, I could either add to the design or I could take away from the design. So I let go of that little thing and I'm kind of coming in here, getting rid of those. I want to add to my selection now. I'm going to push down. I want to add some more. And it might take a little backwards and forwards pushing and pulling. And eventually it learns what you don't want and what you do want. Okay. See, I fixed that little knob there. So you either hit here and say add to it or you take it away. So it's either or. You find the backwards and forwards that you want. Okay, so tapping that button. Okay, so we are selected. So now we're going to grab this one with the move tool. Move him into place. Plop him and down at the bottom, deselect. All right, one last little deal here. There's a little screw. We're going to take that little screw and we're going to select him. Any guess as to what kind of shape selection we're going to use? Gee, I hope you're thinking the circular or elliptical tool. Otherwise, we might have a problem. And on every corner of this wooden frame, we're going to put a small screw. So that means we have to take this one singular selection and cut and paste it and duplicate it 4 times or 3 times. So we have 4, right? Okay, so we're going to zoom in. We're going to come along here, tap and tap. We're going to the selection. I'm going to drag from the left over a little bit. Okay, I'm going to come down here to where it says more at the bottom, like we did before. We need to transform this a little bit because I got to bring this guy in. Got to bring him in a little bit. Oh, too far to one side. Let's go this way. I went too far. That's pretty darn close. PDC. Okay, I'm going to click done, upper right. All right, so this guy is selected. So now I'm going to do the cut and paste that we did with Shell earlier, because each one of these little guys are going to live on their own actual layer. Okay, so I'm going to come down here to the bottom right activity bar underneath the little lightning bolt. I'm going to do cut, come back there again, do paste. Where'd he go? Center of the picture again, right? Now that's an awful large screw head for that small frame. So we need to use the move tool. We're going to move this over and we are going to transform this guy some more. I'm going to use the transform tool over here to shrink this guy, and I'm pulling from the corner, right? Because if you drag from the corner, it kind of helps constrain it a little bit more. Okay, and I'm going to make him kind of small and put him right there. All right, so now I'm going to click done. I need to make 3 more of those because I have to put them on different corners. So that means I need to duplicate this layer 3 more times. So I'm going to go back down here to my 3 little buttons. Look at that. Little plus sign says duplicate layer. There's one. I'm going to do it again. Duplicate layer. And one more time. Okay. So now, believe it or not, all of those little guys are sitting on top of each other right here. So I'm going to go back to layer copy 2 because that was the first one that I copied. I got my little move tool and I'm going to move him and drag him up here. All right. I'm now going to do the same thing. I'm going to go up to layer 2 copy 2, starting from the same point because see they're all sitting right on top of each other. I'm going to drag him over there somewhere. And then do that with the third one. Drag him and move him over here. So you can put the little screws wherever you want to. If you want to get excitable and put more than those on, that's cool too. Okay. Now, for the final move, we need to get all this junk off the bottom because this is just sort of where we threw all the pictures so we could cut them and put them all in where we need to, but we need to get rid of some of this excess. So I'm going to go back down to layer 0, our starting picture. And we need to crop this junk out. All right, so I'm going to go down to the crop tool, which is down here right between, let me cancel for a second so you see it again. The crop tool is underneath the band-aid and above the letter T for type. Okay, and all of a sudden it gives us bounding box kind of a deal. You'll notice here that you can always tilt or turn if you have a crooked picture that you need to fix. Okay, ours isn't crooked. We just need to get rid of some of this junk. If you want to leave sort of a white border around it, I'm cool with that, but we definitely need to get rid of the junk that's down below. All right, click done, and ta-da, you are now done. Right, so now what we need to do is we need to save this to your Google Drive as a JPEG. So we're going to go to the up arrow and you're going to do push and export, or publish and export. Sorry. Choose JPEG as your option, and it'll be somewhere like, 7 or 8. All right. Always, again, we know that JPEG's kind of degrade in quality a little bit, so save it at its maximum. So if it's going to be crappy, save it as an awesome crappy picture. We want that. We'll just leave it as standard format and hit export. And then it's going to say, hey, where do you want to save it to? And you're going to say, you can either save it to files or you can go, but Google Drive is really the best for us, so you can turn it in. There it is. And I'm going to find my Google Classroom folder. And as usual, it's helpful if you all put your last name and the title of what this lesson was, which was selections. Okay. And I'm going to go select folder, go into my drive. I'm choosing my classroom and I'm clicking save here so I can upload it. Okay. And then as usual, turn this image in. Now we're just saving this as a JPEG primarily because it tells me it's complete. Awesome. Just because it's a lesson. When we do for a project, I'll have you save for PNG and you'll save it as a Photoshop document and as a JPEG. All right, so you'll save in more than one format, but just for lessons, we're going to go for a JPEG. Hope this helps you out.